Okay.
안녕하세요. Um, so
안녕하세요.
I have my friend Jenny here for this conversation, and we were talking the other day about Korean culture and American culture, and the differences and how often these cultures blend with immigrants who come to the United States and bring with them Korean culture, but then it gets blended with American culture and lots of different situations. And so we wanted to use this as an opportunity to share our perspectives on Korean and American culture and talk about some of our experiences. So, Jenny, could you give us kind of an introduction and share a little bit about your background and um, just a little bit of your history?
Sure. Hi. My name is Jenny, and I was born in the U.S. My parents came, I would say, in the early 80s, and they started a family. They had me and my brother. And so I was born and raised in the US. I moved a lot when I was young. Started off in New York City, and that's where I think many Koreans come when they first come to
Yeah.
America. So I was born in Queens, actually,
Hmm.
Flushing.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
right. So I was born there, and I was surrounded by a lot of Koreans. I lived among many Koreans growing up. And then in the course of our moving, eventually made it all the way down to South Carolina. So that was quite a change for me. And I grew up in the South, in the southern part of the US for the past 20 years or so. But looking back, it's interesting because I grew up in a Korean community and then I found myself spending a lot of my school years being the only Asian, being the only
Oh,
Korean at times in
oh,
schools. And then coming back to, and then eventually making my way to Atlanta,
mm,
which Atlanta has a big Korean community. So just finding myself um, just trying to get acclimated back into the Korean community. So
yeah,
it's been quite a journey for me. But I would say I'm very thankful. My parents, we always spoke Korean growing up. So I have a good grasp of the language. And my parents also did a great job, I guess, just instilling the Korean culture.
yeah,
So my brother and I, we have a lot of that with us as we got older.
yeah,
So now that we're older, I just find it even more of a blessing it is that I feel that um, I have my Korean culture, but I'm also able to live my life as an American here in the
yeah,
U.S. So
yeah,
it's been quite a journey for me, and I think this is also a great opportunity for us to just share about the similarities and the differences, I guess, with both cultures. So
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
be a part of this conversation.
So, when you were in school growing up and so
Mhm.
forth, and you were the only Asian, often in your classes and so forth, how did you feel about that? What was your experience?
Um, I don't think it really bothered me so much. Like when I look back, um, I was very young, but even though, I guess looking back, even though I did have my Korean friends, we moved so much when I was young. And the fact that I knew English well, I didn't have
Yeah,
any problem speaking English,
yeah,
didn't give me a problem getting along with new people.
right,
So I didn't really see that as a hindrance, I would say.
yeah,
I'm very thankful though, because it may have bothered me more now that I think about it, but I don't think it really did so much.
yeah.
Yes.
That's
So
good.
I'm thankful
That's
for
good.
yes.
So, what? So you had a culture within a culture, in that in your home, uh, uh, your parents spoke Korean. Um, they brought with them Korean culture from Korea. You were raised in that culture within your household, yet outside and all around you in school and so forth is American culture. How did that blend for you? what are some of the observations you have about being in that kind of situation?
Right. It's hard to say looking back now,
Yeah,
but I was able to find the balance. In a way, I think it was an on and off switch for me. When I stepped out of my house, I settled into life as an American.
yeah,
Um, and then when I came into my house, yeah, it was just kind of going back into my Korean roots and just
yeah,
it's hard to explain, but I'm very blessed that I was able to have that. And I think it's also
yeah,
because I was able to speak Korean well at home.
right.
So I was able to just have that communication with my family.
Yeah,
And then just also being able to speak English at
right.
school, right? Just to be able to have that balance. It's hard to explain, but yeah, I don't know. I think I was able to just be able to balance that out. And I
Yeah,
think at a young age, I realized that that's kind of the way I needed to step forth and
yeah,
just live my
yeah,
life that way. I think as at a young age, I think I realized that
right.
there were two parts of me and that I had to kind of learn to navigate through that. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, I always think about identity, and some people have identity crises, and some people in their identity, they have, very strong feeling about where they're from or um, their culture or their country or, whatever. And you're American. you know, you are born in the United States, and yet your parents were born in Korea. So, is there, how does that identity feel to you at this point in your life? Do you feel equal parts American and Korean, or how does that work for you?
um so I guess as you were asking me this question, I was just looking back again.
Yeah,
And growing up, I think there was that struggle because I am American in the sense that I was born in the US.
yeah,
Even when I go to school, people saw me as Asian. So, and even though I grew up in New York City, where it was
yeah,
very diverse, I
right.
do remember kids, picking on me at times or calling me, certain names,
Oh,
and just thinking like, just thinking wow, like why would they say that or why would they think of me that?
yeah,
I
yeah,
just
yeah,
be a part of, I just want to be accepted.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So I think I did experience a little bit of that when I was young, but
yeah,
it didn't bother me though. I think it was just another reminder that, oh, I am different. Even though I'm American,
yeah,
there are differences, I think
yeah,
as a
yeah,
child, I realized that.
yeah,
Now that I'm older, it's hard to say that I'm half half or to really put a number between how much I'm this or that. But I think my identity is just Korean American. I'm
yeah,
Korean, I'm also American too.
right, right.
And I feel this more when I go to Korea. I feel the American in me when I'm in Korea.
Right, right.
And then when I'm here, it's interesting. I'm thankful that I'm in a community where there are many Koreans.
Yeah,
A lot of my friends were also born and raised here, and they're
yeah,
Korean. So
yeah,
we have this shared identity together that
right, right.
we don't have to explain to each other. We just
Yeah,
know. And so I have that. But I think as I got older, I think I came to be able to blend it better together.
yeah,
I think growing up, I did have questions
yeah.
about
Well,
my, right,
identity is hard for kids anyway.
right,
No matter who they are or where they're
yes.
brought up. So yeah, that's a I would have expected that there would have been,
Mhm.
adjusting challenges to that. And especially, well, how did you feel when someone, made fun of you or called you a name or something like that? Because I know some kids, if they get picked on or bullied in some way, it's like it's the end of the world. I mean, they're just shattered. And it causes them to go into their shell and,
Yeah.
and others just kind of blow it off. How did you feel or how did you deal with that?
Yeah. I don't. Honestly, I want to believe that it didn't really bother me much because
Yeah. Yeah.
um I don't remember dwelling on it or thinking too much about it.
Right.
But it was just another reminder that, oh, regardless of how I feel about myself, kids are not going to be looking at me, any differently. And I think, like, for instance, Jenny Craig, I got teased as Jenny Craig a lot. My
Oh,
name
really?
is Jenny, and my name is Jenny, and last name is Chang. So I don't know.
Yeah.
For some reason, they thought Jenny Craig, like, I would get called that. And then there was a famous tennis player, Michael Chang.
Yeah.
So I got compared with him. Like it was just a lot of things have to do with my name, you
Oh,
know,
okay. Okay.
and just yeah, and so things like that. But yeah, I don't think it really got to me. But I was never an outgoing social kid. I,
Yeah.
I was pretty to myself. I was
Yeah.
pretty quiet. I loved books. So my favorite place to be was at the library. I loved spending time at the library reading books.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Didn't really have too many interactions actually with my peers, I would say. And
Oh,
I was
okay.
okay with that too. So
Yeah.
it was just, yeah, my outlet was just reading. Yeah,
Yeah.
I enjoyed reading and doing that. And also, I think because we moved so much, I think at a certain point, I felt there was no need for me to really keep trying to make friends because I would have to leave
Keep
again.
changing them. Yeah.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
even at a young age, I realized like that's hard for me, even if I do make friends, like
Yeah.
just knowing that I won't be there too long or just thinking that I may have to move again and not be able to say goodbye.
Right.
I think those things took a toll on me too. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay.
Huh. I have a friend, he's in his late 20s,
Mhm.
and he's second generation
Oh.
also. And so he was born here, but his parents did not do what your parents did. They basically wanted him to be as American as he could be. So he
Oh.
grew up not speaking Korean at all. And he is now trying to learn Korean. And I mean, he's having as hard of a time as I did, and he's, his parents every now and then go to Korea and take him with them, and he has a really hard time because
Mhm.
he looks Korean, but he cannot speak Korean,
Right, right.
and so uh, he has that unfortunate, difficult situation, and
Mhm.
he has shared with me that when people say like, "Where are you from?" you know, and
It's a loaded question.
yeah, it's a loaded question. He's like, "Well, I'm American. I'm born here,"
Right.
and so for you, have you been asked that question?
Of course.
Well, I assumed you had, but I didn't want to,
Of course.
you know.
Of course.
Okay.
And I
So how
know,
frequently do you get that question? Because your English is so perfect that, yes, you look Korean, but you sound like you were born in America.
mhm.
So, but you still get asked that question. So how does it make you feel, and how often do you get asked a question like that?
Um, so I mean, now I work from home, but
Yeah.
before, when I worked, um, I would get asked that by my coworkers. I mean, just people would just, I think, naturally would ask, and I would just, a part of me would think to myself, are they asking me where I currently live, or asking where, you know,
No.
um,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, I do ask that. It's interesting though for me. I guess a way for me to separate it is if a non-Asian asked where I'm from,
Yeah.
then I would know that they're asking where I'm originally from, not
Right.
necessarily like what area.
Right.
So I kind of make that distinction, or I think if people are just kind of curious about my background or about my culture,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So kind of
Yeah.
pick up hints here and there, but I would say about 80% of the questions when they ask where are you from, they're meaning to ask where am I originally from. I don't think they really want to know what area in Georgia I currently live
Right,
in,
right, right. Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think it's, for some people, they can get very easily offended
Mhm.
by those kinds of things. And you never know what's in somebody's mind, or a lot of times people aren't even thinking about it. It just pops into their head. And if you have the kind of personality that can just respond and not take
Mhm.
it as an insult, it
Right.
it it just helps. Because sometimes that person may end up being your friend down the road,
Right. Right.
and sometimes you can be an educator for them,
Right. And
because yeah, go ahead.
oh yes, and I was gonna say, I mean, I'm it's actually a blessing to live in a time now where Korean culture
Yeah,
becoming such a hot issue, I guess. So, like just Korean culture, every part of it, that people are trying to learn the language, wanting to learn more about the culture. So I would have never thought this growing up. I would say even in New York City, even though there was a big Korean community,
yeah.
most kids assumed that I was Chinese. I
Oh,
think
okay.
Chinese was
Yeah,
automatically
yeah,
like what
yeah,
American people when they saw an Asian would assume Chinese.
yeah,
But I mean, it's not like that anymore. It's not like that now.
yeah.
Just the fact that people are being more aware, and the fact that they are so curious about Korean culture, I find that fascinating
Yeah,
actually.
yeah,
So
yeah. Well, I
yeah,
think K-pop and K-dramas have
right,
brought an awareness
yeah,
about Korea that never was here before. I
right,
mean, if you said Korea, people remembered the Korean War, and
hmm
Americans went over and fought in that war, but they didn't know a lot about it. And
right,
today, there's so much curiosity and interest in Korean culture because of K-pop and movies and dramas and so forth that are everywhere.
Mhm.
So, and it's all positive. I think people,
Yes,
in fact, I meet people all the time who are learning Korean, and I ask them, I say, what caused you to want to learn Korean? And it usually goes back to K-pop or K-dramas or something like that. They have no idea how hard it's going to be,
yeah, yeah.
but they're drawn to the culture.
Mhm.
They watch the dramas and they see the historical dramas and they see the current dramas, and there's something about the culture that they really kind of fallen in love with, and
Mhm.
and they want to know more about it. They want to learn the language. So you have your cultural issues. I have mine as well.
Yeah.
Um, and I've shared on some of the videos that I do on my YouTube channel here about some of my past. But basically, in the early 70s, I joined the Navy and learned Korean for a year in Defense Language Institute in Monterey, California. And then after that, went to Korea and lived there for 2.5 years. I loved it. I
Mhm.
just, I absolutely fell in love with Korea and with the culture. It just seemed, and of course, Korea is a different country now because my daughter and I went for a visit in 2024, and it doesn't look like the same country. It
Yeah.
doesn't feel like the same country. But I was stationed in a military base far away from Seoul, and in that environment, people were so friendly. And when they
Mhm.
saw that I could speak Korean, they were even 10 times more friendly,
Yes.
because it was very rare that they would meet an American that actually took the time to learn the language.
Mhm.
And so I didn't want to leave. And but when I came back to the U.S., I got all caught up. But by that time, my wife had gone with me. We had two
Mhm.
kids, and uh, I got caught up in career and all kinds of stuff. And literally, I just Korea which was such a big part of my life for
Mhm.
several years, now played almost no part in my life. And it wasn't until 2023 that I had an encounter with a Korean person and tried to speak to them and couldn't. Then I
Mhm.
realized 50 years had gone by and I forgot all that language that I had learned and everything. And I wanted to start learning again. So it's been almost 3 years now that I've been studying Korean. And in the process, uh, I have engulfed myself in the Korean community, at least from the standpoint that now, after 3 years, just about all my friends are Koreans. I find myself whenever I'm in any kind of social gathering, it's always me and Korean people, and I'm the only Caucasian in the group,
Yeah.
and trying to figure out what everybody's saying because I'm
Mhm.
sitting at tables eating and so forth, and conversations are going on, and my Korean is still not good enough for me to just be able to pick up and understand everything that's being said. And the thing about conversations is they tend to just go where the wind blows. First they're
Yes.
talking about this, then they're talking about this, then they're talking about this. And
Right.
I'm still trying to catch up with, what are we talking about here?
Right.
And because they are all having a conversation, I don't want to interrupt them and say, "Hey, could you tell me
Yeah.
what you're talking about?" Because I'm a little bit like an outsider. I'm sitting at the table
Mhm.
and I feel accepted, but not enough to stop their conversation and say,
Yeah.
"Hey, explain that to me." But I
Mhm.
always appreciate it when people do that, and there's several individuals. Uh, uh, Pastor Kim does that a lot, and I always
Mhm.
appreciate when he does. He looks over at me and sees my
Yeah.
bewildered face, and he'll often say, he'll often say, "Did you understand what they were talking about?" I say, "No," and then he'll explain it to me.
Mhm.
So that's a kind of a mercy thing that happens sometimes that I appreciate, but I don't mind it,
Mhm.
and I don't really have a problem being the only Caucasian and the only native English speaker in a group of people. Maybe because I got conditioned to that in my second marriage, where my wife was black, and and she had so many friends, and I had not very many friends. And she had such a big family, and I didn't. And so
Oh.
I was always at family reunions and family dinners and family this and family that. And, continually in situations where I was the only white person and making mistakes,
Mhm.
saying politically incorrect things just because I didn't know.
Mhm.
And I always used to say to her, every week with you in this marriage is Black History Week for me because she's constantly saying, "You can't say that." Then she would go back to history and
Yeah.
talk about, the whys
Yeah.
and very serious stuff that really
Mhm.
opened my eyes and my heart and made me realize, wow, that culture within our culture, I haven't understood it.
Mhm.
I haven't really seen
Yeah.
how they feel. And so
Mhm.
during that marriage, which I got divorced again, got remarried. I'm on my third marriage right now.
Mhm.
But during the course of those years that we were married was a cultural education for me. And it just became so easy for me to be the only different person in the group. And I stood out a lot more as the only white person in groups of black people.
Yeah.
And I just got to the point where I didn't even think about it anymore. And I always felt that people accepted me. There were always those exceptions. There always are
Yeah.
exceptions. People who
Yeah.
have some issue, but
Mhm.
that's their issue. And I still had a sense of belonging,
Mhm.
and I want to talk about that a little bit because uh, belonging is so important. And I've recently read a couple books on belonging. It's a pretty important thing that's emphasized in the workplace today and in a lot of areas that there is a sense of belonging that when you have it really makes a difference, and when you don't have it, it causes this feelings of alienation.
Right.
And so when I began to be involved in Korean churches and Korean community with Korean
Mhm.
friends and so forth, I never had a sense of alienation. I always had a sense of belonging and being accepted. Um, so what about your sense of belonging as you were growing up and now? What's that like?
Oh, wow. Definitely growing up, it was a lot of changes that I had to face.
Yeah.
And as I got older, I realized how much I was very resistant to change. I wanted stability. And I think that's probably why I've lived in Georgia for so long now. And I've grown to love Georgia. Um, but growing up, I think it was hard for me to have that sense of belonging. I
Yeah.
felt
Yeah.
belonging in my family,
Yeah.
but I think outside of my family, my school, just constantly being surrounded in a different environment and just
Yeah.
having to adapt to that at a young age, I think it was hard for me. And like I said, just the type of kid I wasn't the type to be going around making friends quickly. Like I did keep to myself too. So I think it was really hard for me. And the older I got, I realized how much I think I was thinking to myself, a lot of these changes, I didn't really have a say in it growing up because it was due to my dad having to change
Yeah.
jobs.
Yeah.
But I think at a certain point, I think I kind of told myself, like when it comes time for me to have to make that decision, I'm not going to choose to change, or I'm not going to choose change. Like if I have a say, then I'm going to try to have stability. Like I value that a lot.
Yeah.
But as I got older, I realized it's just funny how life works. It never works the way you think it would work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even just looking back now, I mean, my faith is very important, and God has
Yeah.
played a big part in my life, and He is still actively working and moving. But He's really worked on that part, actually,
Yeah. Yeah.
and He's allowed me to embrace change and
Yeah.
allow me to really
Yeah.
force myself out of my. And I realized that's not really who I am. But
Yeah.
looking back, just seeing all the changes I've had to get used to and changes I had to, um, I guess, deal with, it really was God guiding me through it.
Yeah.
So now, just looking back from where I was to where I am now, I'm just very thankful because I do have a stronger sense of belonging
Yeah.
where I don't question that now. I
Good.
have that at
Good.
church, I have that in my home, but just I realized that sense of belonging, yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, it is very special. Um, but for me, I think the key is God. So
Yeah. Yeah.
once you have that connection and that relationship with God, I think everything else just falls in place. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, but I would say, um, since I was young, to looking back at myself and seeing where I am now, I'm just thankful. Just going through all that I've went through, God's really worked on me and helped me to change and adapt when needed.
Yeah.
He's allowed me to really kind of stretch myself too at times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Well, I think that the concept that we understand as Christians of being in the world but not of the world has built in that concept has built into it that sense of belonging. First of all, that I belong to God.
right.
My life belongs to Him. The life that I used to live is gone.
Mm-hmm.
That old man is dead. And a new life has come. And the sense of belonging comes from that connection, that
Right.
relationship. And so my father is not that earthly father that
Mm-hmm.
I had such a hard time with growing up,
Yeah.
but a heavenly father, a spiritual father who is nothing like that,
Mm-hmm.
and that connection is so strong. Yesterday morning, I was in the prayer meeting at church, and and in the Wednesday morning sessions, we just for 1 hour we all
Yeah.
pray, and and it was a really a blessing because I came into the presence of God at the beginning of that hour, and I was so blown away.
Oh.
I cried for an hour as
Oh.
I prayed,
Mm-hmm.
and just was trying to grasp the magnitude of this Father who I have a relationship with. And it was so intense. And I almost felt like during that hour, that that the A Christmas Carol, that story that we've seen so many movies of, where
Mm-hmm.
the Scrooge is brought the spirit of Christmas past and Christmas future and present, all that. I felt like I was going on a tour
Oh.
as I sat there in the presence of God, and my first reflection was uh, on my mother, and I remember, her faith was very strong, and I always used to tell myself, especially when my faith was wavering as I became a teenager, if
Mm-hmm.
I could believe what she believes, my life would be totally different. But I was having such a hard time believing it.
Mm-hmm.
It just, and in that moment, it was like there was no issue of belief.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here in the presence of God. The reality was so strong. And in that reflection, it's like my mother knew this. I looked at her from the outside at beliefs,
Yeah.
but she was there in the presence of God. And that experience is something that we have. And the sense of belonging is not like any other
Right.
kind of belonging. The kind of belonging that we're talking about, cultural and so forth. Yeah, that's a sense of belonging, but it's on a
Mm-hmm.
different plane.
Right. Right.
And so when you have that deep sense of belonging, it is so strong that you can go into almost any situation, especially knowing that God is leading your life,
Mm-hmm.
and and not feel that, oh, do I belong here, and that nervousness and so forth, because that sense of belonging is there.
Mm-hmm.
I was I have been involved with 3 Korean churches in the past 3 years, and the second church that I was involved with was only for about 3 months. Um, but they had this group of older men, uh, who would always sit together. They would have lunch after the worship service on Sunday, and they would all sit together. And they invited me to come and sit with them and talk. And I was talking to the guy sitting next to me. He was
Mm-hmm.
about my age, and and some people, many Korean, my experience with Korean people is they're not too direct. They tend to be kind of in.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
guy was really direct.
It's
He said,
direct.
"What are you doing here anyway?"
Yeah. Oh.
Uh, it kind of took me back, and
Mm-hmm.
so what am I doing here? My first thought is, don't you want me to be here, or are you telling me I'm out of place, or I'm in the wrong place, or I shouldn't be here, or that just kind of
Mm-hmm.
flashed over me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then the next thing that flashed over me was the only way I can really answer that is, well, God led me here.
Mm-hmm.
I, I I don't even know exactly why I'm here. I'm following God, and this is where I belong. And the concept of belonging is interesting because the concept of, the feeling of belonging is something that's inside of me,
Right.
right? But if I'm feeling that other people think I shouldn't be there, or they don't like me, or I'm not accepted by the group, then I can take that doubt into my mind and start working it in my mind. And pretty soon I
Mm-hmm.
feel alienated and out of place.
Yeah.
And then I start acting like an outsider. But I'm a coach, and
Mm-hmm.
this thing of belonging, I coach people on this all the time who feel alienated. And what I always tell them is, uh, you know, the best thing you can do is just decide whether you belong there, and if you do, just feel like an insider. Now that's easier said than done, right?
Right, right.
But to feel like an insider, what is that like? Well, it has nothing to do with race or culture or anything else. When I say insider, I'm one of the group,
Hmm.
but I've only been here for a short time, but that's okay. I'll grow on you. Okay? And if I act alienated, then they will feel that coming
Yeah.
from me. But if I act, you know, like I
Hmm.
belong here. This is where I belong. God led me here. I want to be, okay, they may be skeptical about it, but I have yet to be rejected, outright rejected by anybody. And most of the time, people are really friendly to me. And the more they know me,
Yeah.
they know my heart. And, then they have that sense that I belong as well.
Hmm.
But it starts in me.
Yeah.
If it's not in me and I'm waiting for them to make me feel the sense of belonging, well, that might not happen. And that's what used to happen to me in school. I was a loner and I
Hmm.
would, go to a new school or something like that. And I had no friends. I didn't know anybody. And I just felt like an outsider.
Hmm.
But I would act like an outsider. There's nothing that makes people want to come up to me and say, "Hey, how you doing?" Because
Yeah.
I'm like, you know, and and that's just no way to live. So I think that, as you say, the the capital B belonging that we get from our life in Christ
Hmm.
gives us a very solid basis that allows us to go into situations and have that sense of belonging that transcends the cultural differences or even the comments that people make.
Yeah.
You know, um,
I'm listening to you,
yeah,
Roger. It truly is amazing, and I don't think I can speak for the Korean man who said that to you, but I think he genuinely was just curious,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
about
No,
it.
I think so too.
It is definitely. I mean, it's not. I don't know. It reminds me when I was in college. There was a caricature done in the school magazine, and everyone just laughed when they saw it because literally drew the dining tables were separated. There was a black
Yeah,
table, there was a white table,
yeah. Oh, wow.
Asian
Yeah,
table. Like
yeah,
it's just I don't know. My college
yeah.
experience was like that too. Everyone just kind of, and I think I don't know why we just gravitate towards just what's familiar to us.
Right, right.
Something that we don't necessarily have to explain. We just know,
Yeah, yeah,
and it's so easy just to kind of fall into that. I say,
yeah.
so I think so for people who are used to that, when they see you, it's like you definitely are
Right.
outside so I think that's why there's definitely that question of like, wow, who is this guy?
Yeah.
But no, but I think it's great that it's great what you explained, and I think it's so true too. But looking back at myself, I think as a kid though, I think there's a lot of things that you wrestle with and try to understand, try to grasp with.
Yeah.
I don't think we even fully understand ourselves when we're little. I think it was
Oh
just a
no.
lot of things for, yeah,
Even when
yeah,
we're big.
right, right. So I just remember when I was young, just wanting to hurry up and be an adult.
Yeah.
I wanted to hurry up and grow up. Like I didn't want life as a child, I felt had no meaning in the sense that I didn't feel like I could contribute anything. I saw my parents working hard.
Yeah.
I figured I need to hurry up and grow up and, and provide for them or take care of them because they're just making sacrifice day in and day out.
Yeah.
So as a child, I think it wasn't that my parents sat me down and said that to us, but I think it was just we just observed our
Yeah.
family, my brother
Yeah.
and me. I think it was just kind of I think we just had that in us.
Right.
So that just kind of became another a layer of us, I guess, growing up. And I would see a lot of immigrant children. It's interesting when I hear stories of other families, going through similar experiences. A
Yeah.
lot of the kids grow up with that, and I think that also kind of plays a part in why a lot of the second generation immigrant children, like in the U.S., oftentimes they are very successful and they do well, I guess.
Right.
because they have that extra motivation or motivating factor, I guess, to kind of like push them forward or yeah.
Right.
So, but yeah.
Well, one of the things that I think about a lot in terms of the
Mhm.
difference between U.S. culture and Korean culture is the family.
Mhm.
I mean, family values and family traditions and so forth are have been disintegrating in this country for some time,
Mhm.
and they're very different than they were when I was growing up and when my grandparents were growing up and so forth. It's like continual
Yeah.
change in cultures, but we don't have Confucian influence in this culture, and so the family. The way we look at families in the West and in America is so much different than the traditional way that Korean culture looks and thinks about family. But I also understand that Korea is rapidly changing.
Yes.
Um, when I was there in 1972, it was a poor country and it was a developing country, but it
Mhm.
wasn't there yet. Now, in 2024, when
Mhm.
my daughter, when I went there, I look, man, there's so many things that are advanced beyond what I see here in
Right.
so many ways, transportation and soul, and just so many
Mhm.
different things.
Yeah.
And it is a very different culture. And I have so many Korean friends that I talk about what's happening with family values and family traditions over the years, and they're telling me it's rapidly changing. The things that
Mhm.
they used to do, uh, they're not doing so much anymore, and things are changing. And then I also hear that many families that come from, let's say, 30 years ago, came from Korea to the U.S. and may have stayed very close within the Korean community, have like a snapshot of Korean culture from 30 years ago that they're keeping alive within their family,
Mhm.
and they're much more traditional than the people in
Yeah.
Korea in a lot of
Mhm.
cases. And so there's so many different kinds of things, but um, I guess I'm always interested in hearing about family culture.
Mhm.
And so you grew up in a family that transplanted from Korea to here, and you obviously know about traditional Korean culture and traditional American culture and cultures today. What was your family like? Your experience?
Yeah. So, I had a very strong relationship with my grandma,
Yeah.
and she eventually came to the US too. She
Oh,
actually
okay.
came the year my brother was born. So it was 1990 she came.
Okay.
And she lives, I mean, she came when she was 70. And she lived in
Wow.
the US for well over 20 years. But my
Wow.
grandma was a very strong woman, and my mom had shared a story of her background, and
Mm.
what she had to go through. And I think just since we were young, I guess just um, my mom sharing just her family history, just and that just became like, oh, that's part of our family.
Yeah.
That's and my mom just kind of put an emphasis of like that's in your blood, like
Yeah.
and just feeling that connection, I think that's pretty powerful. So
Yeah.
a lot of oral history being spoken, like
Ah.
of our families, of my dad when he was young, just being told a lot of that growing up. I think it gave us a better picture, I guess, better
Yeah.
understanding of what our parents lived through, what they had to go through, and even my parents, they were born right during the war, during the Korean War,
Okay.
and my grandma was originally from North Korea. So even now, I have this weird, I don't know, I don't know if it's connection, but there is a part of me that I do find myself being drawn to North Korea,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and just wondering, would there be a day where we can step foot in North Korea? I do
Yeah.
think of the people in North Korea because my grandma was originally from North Korea.
Yeah. Yeah.
her family probably is still there,
Mm.
so I think there's a part of me that kind of wonders about that too. But my mom, she really made it, she says now it's because her English was limited and she really wanted to make sure she can communicate with her children.
Yeah.
So that's why she put so much effort into making sure that my brother and I would understand Korean and would know Korean. My
Right.
grandma played a big part in that too. Actually, she sat me down and I learned like a lot of the Korean letters. There's Korean school too for Korean children.
Yes.
A lot of Korean churches have that, so I do
Right.
remember that too. But I think it's just constantly just using the language at home,
Yeah.
just learning about our families, just having that. I think ingrained since you're young, just be
Yeah.
constantly just absorbing that. And I think at a certain point you realize that's just a part of you,
Yeah.
like I think, yeah, I don't know how else to explain it honestly, but I think it's just, yeah, I think it's that. And then I guess for my parents too, I didn't realize when I was young, but now that I'm older, I look back and just see how hard it must have been for my parents too. Just coming to a foreign country, not really knowing what they could do, but they didn't really have the time or luxury just to sit back and think about what they want to do. Like, I mean, they have a family, they have to provide.
Yeah.
So I think when I was young, all I saw was, why do we constantly have to move around? Like, why can't we just stay in one place? Like, why can't I be able to just enjoy this environment that I'm in? It felt like just when I was getting used to it, I'm being sent
Just
somewhere
the
else,
way.
right?
Yeah.
At a young
Yeah.
age, it was really hard for me to grasp that. But
Yeah.
now that I'm older, I realize it was hard for my parents too. In some ways, it probably was even harder for them because they had to get adjusted to a
Sure.
different place. Even in America, I mean, we've started off in New York, New Jersey, where we were surrounded by a predominant Korean community.
Yeah.
And Korean communities in the US, it's interesting because Korean people really band together.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell, I mean, there are Korean communities, because we literally take over that area.
Yeah.
Like, you see
Yeah.
Korean grocery stores, you see Korean restaurants. I mean, it just becomes like a mini Korea.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think there's just a strong sense of pride.
Hmm.
And then just, we keep talking about belonging, but I think
Yeah.
Koreans, like, I think we come to really just embrace the community that we make, and
Right.
I think just people kind of naturally come together. So my parents started off in that community and then they just had to keep moving further and further away from it. So I mean, we lived in South Carolina, which was a huge change.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so just I think a lot of things I come to better understand it now that I'm older. It
Hmm.
gives you a different perspective,
Yeah. Yeah.
for sure. Just looking at my parents too, and just
Right.
realizing the things that they had to do, or they have to endure,
Right.
so,
Right.
which I'm very thankful for. I have conversations with my brother, and we just think about the things we just grew up. I mean, my brother and I, we speak English well,
Yeah.
and I just it never really hit me how hard English can be if you try to learn it.
Oh, yeah.
Just the things that you don't really necessarily think about.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I've actually realized that, recently, just being reminded of that.
Well,
Just,
being in my English class, you see the
yeah.
struggle, because we have a couple of people that have just recently come over from
Right.
Korea, and even though they have studied English,
Hmm.
it's mostly studying books,
Right.
memorizing vocabulary and learning grammar, but not speaking.
Yeah.
And so that there is that fear of speaking and that inability to just connect. Now, when your
Mhm.
parents came to the U.S., how was their English at that time in terms of speaking?
So not good.
Yeah.
Good, but I just remember, and I think a lot of it's funny because this is something that a lot of my friends who actually grew up in the US, we all share this for the most part. is we would have to take calls for our parents and speak for them.
Oh,
We had to
oh, yeah.
translate. I mean, naturally, it was just, I remember my dad just passing the phone to me so that I,
Right, right.
oh, and
Yeah,
even that I did not like. I was like, oh my goodness, why do I have to do this? So I remember my dad was more like that. My mom, it's interesting because I see my mom now and she's very independent, actually.
yeah,
She, even today, anything that she can try to take care of, she tries to do it on her own. So
yeah,
she, whether it has to do with her Medicare or just healthcare, doctor's office visits, she's on top of everything.
yeah,
Um, English, she just goes at it, I think, heads on. She doesn't really ask me for assistance. And I've noticed my mom's English has gotten better because of that part of her that she says, you know what, let me try it. And if I
yeah,
can't do it,
yeah,
then
yeah,
I'll do. And I really appreciate that with my mom. My dad, I think he definitely used us more. He definitely tried to use, the fact that we can speak English
yeah.
to help him. So I just remember being a kid and just having to, get on the phone for him or like help him with this, help him with that. Yeah. So
Well, especially in South Carolina, because I mean, now, if all you got to do is go to Duluth and Atlanta,
right,
and it's just like being in Korea, you can go to a Korean doctor, a Korean dentist, you can buy a
right.
car from a Korean dealership, you can buy, everything. You don't
Yeah.
really need it. But when you're in South Carolina, especially years ago, you if you wanted to buy a car, if you go to the
Mhm.
doctor, if all of those things was a
Yeah.
challenge. So you had to be like the interpreter, right?
Right, right. I was not a happy teacher, very reluctant, yeah, I just always, it was never easy for my dad, I think, to try to get
Yeah,
me to, I
yeah,
think I let him know how unhappy I was. So, right. But I
yeah,
remember that. And I didn't realize till I was older and I would share stories with my friends and they would say they had similar stories too. And I was like, oh my goodness, I wasn't the only one.
yeah,
So just like
yeah,
things like that, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
But definitely it, yeah, it's just, you don't know. It's so limited what you know as a child. And then I think it's only when you get older that you get to kind of see how, it must have been. And I don't
right.
think I really got to see that. In my eyes, I mean, my dad was Superman, in my eyes. My
Yeah,
parents, I
yeah,
mean, they were my world, like, so yeah, I think it was struggling with that too, and just also seeing that they can be vulnerable at times when they struggled with their English, and just seeing them struggle through things, and just thinking like, oh, I wish they spoke more. I think
yeah,
as a kid, I think I always wonder why can't they try more? If they keep trying, they can get better.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, just
yeah.
feeling that towards them. But I think they were trying to do the best with what they got, for sure. So
Yeah, well,
yeah.
the older you are, the harder it is, and I can attest
Right.
to that myself. Trying to learn Korean at this age, but
Mhm.
yeah, you have to put a lot of effort into it. I put a lot of hours into it, and some people don't have the luxury to have the hours to put into
Mhm.
language study. But language can be a barrier,
Mhm.
and I feel that barrier all the time because um, many of my friends. Their command of English is about the same as my command of Korean. And so,
Mhm.
if we're talking about normal things, we have no problems. But if we start talking about,
Yeah.
like some of the topics that we've had recently in the English class,
Yeah.
punctuality and social
Right.
skills and,
Right.
family. And, as you get into deeper conversations,
Mhm.
the vocabulary is very hard on both
Right.
sides. And I get frustrated because these are my friends. I want to
Mhm.
talk to them about the things that I'm thinking and
Yeah.
and wanting to share. And
Mhm.
yesterday I had after the prayer meeting, had lunch with several of us, went to a Korean restaurant for lunch, and I wanted to share about my experience during the prayer meeting. And there was a lot more that happened during that hour that I didn't share here, but
Yeah.
and I just realized I don't even know how to do that in English, let
Mm,
alone doing it in Korean, and it's frustrating sometimes because I want to share what's down in my heart.
yeah.
And I think that's probably one of the greatest motivations that I have that keeps me really studying because I want to have those more meaningful conversations in Korean, and I feel called to uh, to being in this environment. So
Mhm.
I just it's like you were talking about. You always wanted to grow up really fast. I want to get fluent really fast, but I can only do it at
Oh,
whatever speed my brain allows me to do it. So I just keep plugging along. So, do you have any advice to people who have never been in the U.S., but they're thinking about uprooting their family and coming to the U.S.? What would you tell them would are the most important considerations in terms of
mhm.
how to think about it, how to think about their new life once they get
Mhm.
here, and how to meet some of the challenges that they're going to run into.
I think it's so important to have an open mind and be willing to adapt.
Yeah,
Um, I would say if you're already in that position to even consider this, you probably are
yeah,
you're ready for
yeah.
that.
A big step.
And I think it's so easy to automatically want to go to an area where there are many Koreans. But I would say, why not? Not to say that you have to go somewhere where there's no Koreans, but if you keep a bit of a distance,
Yeah.
and not immerse yourself in a Korean community, I think it will make it so much, I think it will make the transition so much better
Mm.
because
Mm.
I think you can so easily just fall in that trap, and I think it
Yeah.
really does limit you.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I'm just amazed, honestly, at the people who come out continually at your English classes
Yeah.
because I mean, if I were them, I wouldn't really find a reason to want to learn English. If you go
Yeah.
to a Korean company and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
surrounded by like Korean community, you don't necessarily there isn't a need to learn
Yeah.
English. But the
Right.
fact that they recognize that they need it and they want to do it, I think
Yeah.
that just speaks volumes. And I think that's great. But I
Right.
think also for someone who's coming, I think you can just so easily fall into that trap. And
Hmm.
then I think it defeats the purpose of even just coming to America then, right? If you're
Gonna live
you
in Little
so
Korea.
easily just
Yeah.
right, just fall into that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
say you can be near a Korean community,
Yeah. Yeah.
but just to kind of keep that distance too,
Yeah.
so that just to be able to just have that mindset, I guess, to
Yeah.
try to really kind of like immerse yourself in American culture.
Yeah.
I think that would be very important.
Well, I've talked to so many Korean people who have come over here, and when they were
Mhm.
in Korea, they had really good jobs. They were
Yeah,
professionals that, in nurses and different professions. But then they come over here, and because of the language, they can't
right,
just get that same kind of job. So
right.
they're very limited. If your
Hmm.
language skills are also limited and you and don't really push to change that, then even though we have this little Korea here in Atlanta, your options are limited. When you
Right.
look at the whole size of Atlanta, all the companies that are here, all the
Hmm.
opportunities of different kinds of opportunities, you are now limited to those ones that are Korean speaking
Yeah,
and so forth. That might be a necessity initially, but I know people who have been here for 40, 50 years.
right,
And that was the easiest way to come
right,
into the US. But,
right,
as I talk about in my English class about learning a language, you get in your comfort zone.
right.
Uh, and
Yes.
that comfort zone, because it's hard, you got to make a
Yeah,
living. They may
right.
not be making as much money as they did when they were in Korea. So sometimes
Hmm.
they have to have two jobs. They're working
Right.
late hours. And it's like, when am I going to study the language? How am I going to break out of this? Because out of necessity, you build a narrative in your mind and you tell yourself, this is the way it has to be for me.
Yeah.
But those people who are brave enough to, push against that
Mm-hmm.
and push outside their comfort zone and adapt a little bit more, I think the potential benefits are huge.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if you're here for the long term. Because if you come here at age 30 and stay for the rest of your life, that's a lot of years. You
Yeah.
could learn so much and have so many opportunities and so forth. Why limit yourself if you don't
Mm-hmm.
absolutely have to? Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
want to thank you for taking the time to share. It's been very enlightening for me to hear your story and to hear your perspectives. And maybe at some point we can come back and do a part two of this conversation. But thank you so much, Jenny.
Thank you for having me.